In this video, we'll be discussing about closures in JavaScript. So according to the definition of closure, a closure is the combination of a function which is bundled together with references to its surrounding state. To put in very simple terms, a closure is something by which you can access the outer function's variables from the inner function. And let me show you what I mean. Let's create a function here. Let's say function, let's name it my name. Let's take a variable inside this function. Let's say name equal to Vishal. Let's create another function which is inside my name function. Let's call it display. This function will be responsible for logging the name variable. Let's log the name variable here. And what I'll do here is I'll return display function from here. Now let's say now here I am calling the my name function. Now let's run this. It outputs nothing, obviously, because what my name function is returning is a function. So we need to call that as well. So if I call name now, what do you think would happen? Let's call this again. And we got the name displayed here. Great. So this is how closures work. What I told you in the definition, you will be able to access the outer function's variable, in this case the name variable, from an inner function. So that is how closures work in JavaScript. Now let us figure out one thing. How is this happening? How is display function able to access the name variable? Because what is happening is when I am calling the my name function, if we know that how functions are executed, as soon as I am calling the my name function, it will be placed onto the stack, right? Let me show you a diagram. So for example, this is a stack and my name is pushed onto the stack, and as soon as it finishes the execution, it returns the display function back. And when it finishes the execution, the my name function is popped off from the stack, and when it is popped off from the stack, the variable name is also popped off. That is how functions work, right? Now I have not called the display function yet. I have just returned it from here. Now how come this display function, when I call it here, is able to access the name variable? Because it is no longer, the function my name is no longer on the stack, and name should have, where is this name coming from then? Now let us see. Let me show you one more diagram. Whenever a function is created in JavaScript, a closure is also created. You may refer to closure something similar to this, maybe. This is something, this is called a closure maybe, and in which whenever a function is created, for example, in our case, my name function is created, and inside that function was the name variable. So that name variable was stored over here in this box. And when this function was executed, this function was popped off from the stack, but the name variable was still available here in this particular box. So when this display function was called, it got the name from that particular box. This is how closures are done in JavaScript. Now let us continue with one more example to understand it better. Let us now create one more function. Let's say we want to sum two numbers. Let's create a function sum which takes an argument a, and this function returns another function from here. Say return function which takes another argument b, and it in turn does a plus b. Now if I call this sum 1, if I call this sum function with one argument, which means our a variable is 1, it returns us a function, another function which takes another argument which is b. Now I can call this with another argument 3, and it should return us the sum, right? We got the sum. Now you might ask, where are closures useful and where are these used for? Now we'll see one use case for closures. if you have worked with any programming languages, for example Java, any object-oriented programming language, for example Java, let's take Java. So it comes pre-packed with native methods, like you can make a method or property a private property inside a class, which means it can be accessed only by the members inside the class. But there is no such thing in JavaScript. So closures can be very useful in emulating the encapsulation in JavaScript or making your methods private. So let us see how it can be done. Let us clear this first. Let's create a function now that will be used to maybe update the name variable we were using. Let's say we have a function, let's call this update name. Let's create a variable. Let's say we want to make it a private property. Let's denote it by underscore. Let's say initial value is Vishal. Great. Let's say we have another function which will be used to update, and it takes the updated name, and what it does is just updates our name. Now what we'll do here is we will return an object from here. First will be the update method. Let's say it will be update my name. I am pretty bad with names, I guess, but it's fine. Let's say this is a function that will call the update method. Okay, I'm sorry. That will call the updated method update name. This function will update the name variable, and another will be, for example, to get the name value. Let's say display name, which will be a function which will just return the name property. Great. Now let's call this function update name once. Now let us log name dot display name. Display name is a function, so of course we need to call it. Let's say what we get here. Okay, we are getting the name. Great. Now let's say we are updating the name. Let's say we are saying name dot update my name to, for example, Rohan, and we log this again to see if we are updating the name correctly. Let's call this again. Okay, what are we getting? Vishal, it's a function update my name, and this. Let us check what is happening. Oh, let us log this as well. Just a second. Let's see now. Okay, Vishal, there is undefined, and there is function update name. Okay, when we are calling this function update my name, it takes a function which takes an argument of updated name. Oh, we have a typo here. So this is updated name. This should be fine now. Let's run it again. Okay, we got this. Initial name was Vishal, and there we ran a function to update our name, and then the updated name of Rohan. So this is how we can do encapsulation with closures as well. So we are no longer accessing our name variable directly. So we have to call this function display name to get our name, and to update we have another function to update the name. Let me show you one more thing. Let us create one more scenario here. Let's say name 2. Let's do this for everything. So what do you think we'll get the output this time? Let's check. Okay, let's first update the name. Let's Ankush, so that we see the different results. See, the first was Vishal, function execution, Rohan, and second was Vishal, execution and the name. So what I mean here is, whenever you execute this function, a new lexical scope is created and a new closure is created as well. I call this function. Both of these are referring to different name variables. Although it has the same name, it has a separate memory location inside the closure. So first occurrence underscore name in this case is in a separate memory location. When we call this second time, another closure is created and name is stored there, and we'll get a separate name association with it. So that is how we can create closures. It is very difficult to understand closures at first because it is a very intimidating topic, but it is mostly asked in JavaScript front-end interview questions. So I'll show you one more example, one more gotcha with closures inside the loops. Let's continue with the loops. Let's clear this as well first. We'll continue with one more example. This is the last example. Let us see what the problem is. Let us create an array. Let's say we have an array of numbers. Info, great. Let us iterate through that array using a for loop. Let's say for var I, our very favorite iterable variable, and say I is less than array.length, and let's say I plus plus. Let's create a set timeout function inside this, and let's say we have a timeout of 2000 milliseconds, which is 2 seconds, and let's log our array at value I. What do you expect this to print? Take a moment, pause this video and think about it. I'll run this example and let's see. We'll wait for 2 seconds. And let me check. Okay. This should be I less than, not comma. I less than. Let's run this again. Let's see what we get after 2 seconds. We got undefined. 4 undefined value. Why does this happen? Now, and how can we solve this problem? You can pause this video and try for yourself. We've learned closures in this video. You can see how can we apply closures to this problem. What is happening here is, if you know, var is not block scoped. So when it comes here, there is a set timeout function of 2 seconds. Till the time 2 seconds happen, for loop is already been executed and there is nothing to log here. Now there are 2 approaches to solve this problem. Number 1 will be very easy. Just replace this var with let. Let's run this. Let's see if we can get our array back. We got the 4 values, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Why? Because let is scoped block wise. So let is scoped inside these 2 blocks, inside these 2 curly braces, which means I is associated inside these curly braces, where in case of var it was referring to the global scope at that time. So that is why this executed. Now what if we don't have the option to choose let yet? We want to use var, but we want to solve it using closures. How can we solve using closures? Let us see. When does a closure gets created? When we have a function inside another function according to the definition. Let's create a function and let's put everything inside that function, right? What we'll do is we'll immediately execute this function. To execute this function, we'll do this and this function will be executed. Now to use variable I inside this function, we can pass it as an argument obviously, and we'll accept the argument here. Let's name it something else. We cannot name it I. Let's name it modified I, right? And we'll pass this modified I here. So now because this I variable has association here, has been linked here, so this will not go out of execution here. Let us run this and check if this works. We'll wait for 2 seconds and we got our output. This is how we can use closures to solve this real world problems. As we saw in encapsulation, we solved this problem using closures, and closures are almost used in web applications, and closure is the one of the most important questions that is asked in the JavaScript interview, mind that. So that is it for this video. Closure is a very intimidating topic at first, so if you want to know more about closures, I'll put up some amazing links in the description. I'll put up 3 to 4 links. Go through them, see the examples, and read more about closures. You'll get to know the more stuff about them. If you didn't understand anything about this topic, let me know in the comment section. I'll try to help in the comments as well. So, and also let me know the other topics you want me to create. The other one I'm thinking of is the prototypal inheritance. It is similar to the closure. It is very intimidating as well. So we'll see prototypal inheritance in the upcoming videos. Till then, thank you so much. Please like this video if you like my content, and share this video with friends as well. Thank you so much.